Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacey. I'm your host, Bob Gallagher, joined in studio today by Steve Mix of Ross Mortgage. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Great to be here.
And Realtor Rob Cooper with Lair Realty Partners in Danvers. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So we asked you in today to talk about what's going on with real estate on the North Shore. You seeing the same issues with pricing and inventory as the rest of the state, or?
Yeah. We're generally seeing small inventory, less inventory. Prices are getting higher. It's harder for buyers to find the right place for them.
Mm-hmm. Who do you normally work with? Do you work with first-time buyers a lot? Are you doing more listings, or kind of a mix of everything?
I do both. I definitely do listings and first-time buyers. I work with a lot of first-time buyers. I've done quite a few listings, so
right.
I work with either one. But right now there's a lot of buyers out there.
Okay.
Not a lot of listings.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing pretty much all over the state, right, Steve?
Yeah, everywhere we go.
Yeah. If I could put you on the spot for a second, Rob, if you're a first-time buyer and you're looking to get on the North Shore, where's a good place to start if you're on a budget? I mean, if money's no object, there's probably really no limit to what you can buy. But for the average first-time buyer, where are you going to be looking for the best bang for the buck?
Well, I'd recommend Peabody right now. Peabody's got still some affordable prices, and you can still get some pretty good bang for your buck in that town.
Right. A lot of multis in Peabody, or is it more of a single-family area?
It's pretty mixed. It depends. If you're closer to downtown, there's going to be some multifamilies, but there's still quite a significant amount of single families.
That's good. Now, the multifamily stock that you see out there, you seeing investors going after those to turn them into condos, or just keeping them as rentals, or is it
both? Yeah.
Really?
The rental market's just crazy right now. There's just the prices are getting higher and higher. So, they'll either come in and renovate it and sell it as condos, or they'll come in and keep it as rentals.
Yeah. We used to tell buyers, especially buyers that were on the edge as far as what they could afford, buy a multifamily and you could use the rent to qualify for the mortgage payment. But it seems like that's getting awful tough these days for, to compete with the people buying them to flip them or investors, right?
Yeah. The investors are definitely dominating that field right now. It's harder for the first-time buyer or the average buyer to match wits with them, because some of them are coming in with cash deals, and cash is king.
Yeah, it's hard to compete with that, especially if you got 3.5% down on an FHA loan and everything else going on with it, and you got another guy with cash ready to close, right?
Right, yeah. The seller doesn't have to make that decision too hard.
Talk to us a little bit about the cost per square foot of a home and how that relates to the value.
Yeah, so it's something that I have found to be very useful, and I think sometimes it's misunderstood. So in the commercial area, people use price per square foot all the time. This is just the metric that they use because they view commercial as an investment.
Right.
But residential homes are also an investment. So you'll hear sometimes people will say you can't use price per square foot to measure a home's price. But you can. You just have to know the market. You have to be – it's a secondary step. So the way I use it is you can't forego comparative analysis, which is what we do to determine a home's value. But you can use price per square foot to get your hands on the market and understand where the market's going, where it's at, where it's been. So sometimes you'll hear someone say, well, you can't use price per square foot because a small home usually dictates a higher price per square foot than a large home. Well, this is true, but the caveat to that, especially if you're a first-time buyer, is, well, why would you look at a smaller home? Because it's cheaper, right? I mean, if you're going to find an 800-foot ranch, it's probably going to be $250,000 or $300,000 versus that Cape that might be 1,500 square feet, which is going to be $400,000.
Right.
So that higher price per square foot is just basically telling you that there's a reason that home's worth more, or it's more valuable to people, because the first-time buyers can afford that home versus the Cape that they can't afford.
Right. So you got more people that are going to be after that property because it's at the lower end of the spectrum.
Right. And so if you were, and the other caveat to this is that sometimes people say, well, you can't compare a 1,000-foot home with a 2,000-foot home because they're smaller and bigger. Well, we realtors never do that anyways.
Right.
We would never take your little ranch and compare it to a giant colonial. That wouldn't be fair for either of you.
Right.
So when you compare those two ranches that are 850 square feet, you're going to notice that they are about the same price per square foot. And if they're not, there is a reason for that. One might have need a new roof. It might need more work done. There might be some updates that are needed in that home. Or the other one might just be really nice. It might just have, brand new granite countertops, or all these nice things that people do. They reevaluate their bathroom, or they put an addition on their home. So there's usually something that will tell you that this price per square foot is higher because that home is nicer somehow, or that it's more valuable to the people looking at it.
Right. But it's got to be real improvements, not. I mean, I hear people saying all the time, agents talking about how sellers think that because they painted the living room that's somehow going to translate to an increase in value. You're talking about real material differences, upgrades in kitchens and baths.
Exactly, and most importantly, upgrades to square footage.
Right.
If you put an addition on your home, you're adding square footage. That's going to change how much your home is worth because it changes this metric where now you have 300 more square feet or whatever your addition is. So it really is adding value, whereas you're not just painting the walls. You're not just slapping down a new countertop. You're actually really improving the home.
Right.
Sometimes we get into this difficulty. How do you measure the value of something that's recently done? Well, oftentimes people will do something and they say that this is really valuable. Maybe to you, but not to me.
Right.
I like this analogy that I came up with baseball players here. When you're talking about price per square foot, it's a little bit like baseball. If you had someone from another country who's never heard of baseball, and you start talking to them about RBIs and hits and errors and pitch count, they're going to look at you like you have four heads. They really have no idea what you're talking about, right? Because you have to understand what baseball is and how the game is played.
Right.
And then you understand, well, this guy had a lot of home runs, but his team did really good, and he had a lot of support. Or this guy didn't, but he was out for 6 weeks on an injury. So you start understanding why those measurements are done the way that they are.
Right.
So price per square foot has to be taken into consideration with, how you do a comparison. When you start measuring this apples to apples, you really start seeing the value of why one home is worth more than another. And it works across all towns,
Right. And I'm glad you pointed that out, too. When you're making repairs or upgrades to the house, you have to take into account, especially if you're not planning on living there the rest of your life, what's going to appeal to the greater public, not just what you like. A lot of people move into, a 3-bedroom home where the bedrooms are all relatively small, and they figure, hey, I'll just knock out one of the bedrooms and turn it into a bigger master. But, I mean, it can be pretty tough to move a 2-bedroom home, can it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you take away that extra bedroom, now you're taking away the chances that someone with 3 kids is going to live there.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't think of that. And a lot of times people want open floor space. And that can be good, but it can be bad, especially if you're going to eliminate a bathroom or if you're going to eliminate a bedroom. It definitely can take away the value of the home, even though you might think that you're increasing the value of the home.
Right. Now, here's another one I'm going to throw at you. In-ground pools. Would you say that's a net benefit or cost when it comes to selling a property?
See, I love that question because I get asked that a lot. And I actually sold a home recently with an in-ground pool. And I'll tell you what, I had probably 40 or 50 people come through my open house on that first day. And
on the first day?
On that first open house, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, we priced the home right, and that's what happens when you price it right. But it is a wash, honestly. When you hear people, there were people coming through that home going, I can't wait to be out here. This pool is amazing.
Yeah.
And then other people going, you know what? I don't think so. I don't know if I like the pool.
Fill it in.
Yeah, fill it in.
Really?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, are you a beach bum or, what's your day like? It's very, something like that's kind of, I look at it like that's like a jacuzzi or a garage where this can be valuable to some people, but not to others. They, gas stoves are another one. Some people really love a gas stove. They insist they have to have a gas stove. Other people go, I don't cook. I could care less.
Yeah.
I order out every day. It doesn't matter what the stove looks like. So, while the majority of people might want a gas stove, it doesn't necessarily mean, that it's going to be a selling point per se. They had a very nice pool, and it was a very nice day. And so we had a lot more people going, I can really picture myself there.
Yeah. And I'm not a beach bum, and you people listening right now can't see this, but I almost burn under the fluorescent lights in the studio right here. But my first house that I bought, I saw the pool in the backyard, and that was it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I overlooked the Harvest Gold kitchen and the pink shag carpeting. All I could see was the backyard and the pool. And then I sold it to somebody else who used it for a little while. They sold it 2 years later, and the people who bought it filled in the pool.
Yeah.
I was crushed. Still crushed. Still hurts a little bit. But I guess that just goes to show you there's things that may be really important to you that you think are going to add a ton of value. Other people see them as an issue and wouldn't want the house because of it.
Right, exactly. That's one of the key factors to this business is that even when you're using something like price per square foot, this is a good way to sort of iron out all of those differences. Because when you're looking at 2 different homes and you're trying to figure out, well, why is one worth more than the other? There's going to be a variety of reasons for that, right? I mean, we know that people love stainless steel and granite countertops, but In the 90s, people loved an entirely different set of things. And in the 70s, it was all about, wood paneling. And we all know that no one wants that anymore.
Yep.
So, times change. You really want to make sure that if you're going to do something, adding square footage, putting a new roof in, putting a new heating system in, those are things that are going to add value for the next 15, 20 years.
Right.
Because you're expanding the size of the home. Those are things that we all need. We all need a heating system. We all need a roof that's good and in working condition.
Right.
People with the roof and the heating, no one looks at it and says, "Oh, I don't like that heating system." Whereas if you see a granite countertop, maybe you don't like the color, or maybe it's the cabinets aren't the right color. But the heating and the roof, it's pretty much one
stuff
flavor.
Stuff you don't want to deal with as a homeowner, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when you're dealing with your clients, the people out looking at houses, for the most part, say first-time buyers, are they looking at move-in ready, or are they willing to do some work to get into the towns where they want to live? Are they buying fixers?
So everybody starts off with saying, I want move-in ready.
Mm-hmm.
I always hear, I just want to move right in. And then I usually show them a move-in ready home, and they look at the costs, and they go, well, maybe I can do some work. And so, people then start to look at, well, what are I can paint a wall. Anybody can paint a wall. And then they start going, I can do this and I can do that. And they start sort of coming to the terms that, you're going to be a homeowner. There's going to be some work involved in this. Mm-hmm. And I'm generally finding people that start saying, I kind of want a deal. I want to see if I can find a deal out there. And that's getting tougher and tougher for them to find. Mm-hmm. But there's still deals out there to be had, and especially if you're willing to get some elbow grease.
Right.
If you're willing to do some work, there are some deals to be had. You just, it's getting to be more and more work and how much you want to take on.
Is it tough, because they're competing with people that are looking to buy them and flip them, as opposed to buy them and live in them?
Yeah. There's a lot of investors out there. There's a lot of people out there trying to flip. And so one of the reasons I was talking about price per square foot is when you start looking at price per square foot in a town like Saugus, that's the town I live in right now. So the average price per square foot in Saugus has been about $229 per square foot over the last 24 months. Mm-hmm. So that's a good average for your homes. When you're looking at an average home in Saugus, you can do the math real quick and say, well, the cost of the home divided by the square footage, that's my metric. So if you're looking at a home that maybe a flipper came in and just put some granite countertops and sanded the floor, he might want $350 per square foot for that home. Mm-hmm. Is it necessarily worth that much because he spent $4 or $5 grand on new hardwood floors and a countertop? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So you can kind of start seeing where this is going, and you start gauging, well, maybe it is worth it. I do want move-in ready.
Right.
And so you can start kind of gauging why these people are asking the price that they're asking. And I think it just helps give you another level. When you're comparing 4 or 5 homes, you start seeing this. When you compare 12 homes, you start getting that the one that's $169 per square foot really does need some work, most likely. Or maybe there's a lien on the house, or it's a foreclosure, but there's usually a reason why that one's at a discount versus the one that's $350.
Right.
And sometimes people just overprice their house, and you can see that too. If you have 2 apples to apples comparisons, and one's $350 and one's $300, maybe the homeowner's just being unreasonable.
Yeah.
You just never know, but this can kind of help highlight if there really are no differences. If you're looking at these 2 homes and everything else seems the same, well, why is this person charging that much?
Right.
Well, because they might just be wrong.
Right.
They could just be inaccurate.
Right.
It happens sometimes,
know. Right. And how quickly are houses selling on the North Shore right now? And you don't have to be real specific, but are they going? I mean, we're hearing stories about the first few days, most properties, if they're priced right, are going.
Yeah,
under agreement.
The last 2 listings I've had, the one I did in Peabody, that was a few months ago. 4 offers that first open house.
Wow.
This one that I just did, 2 offers that same day. We had it, off the market within a couple of weeks. I had already done the purchase and sale. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, if you can price it right, they're going very, very quickly.
So a house that's on the market for a month is probably overpriced if there's something wrong with it. Fair to say.
Yeah, I mean,
most cases.
if they're still doing open houses on the home 3, 4, 5 weeks into it, if you're seeing repeated open houses, there's a good chance that home is either overpriced or there's something significantly wrong, which is causing them to not sell the home.
Right.
Sometimes it could be fairly valued, but there's just some things that people don't want.
Yeah.
Or that maybe the seller's just not willing to deal with. But that you discount that home a little bit, and you're going to sell it.
Right. So it's basically just pricing it right, regardless of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that makes sense. I want to give out your contact info, too, while I'm thinking about it. Rob Cooper with Lair Realty Partners up in Danvers. Best number to get a hold of him is 781-816-7080. Again, it's 781-816-7080. Why don't you tell us a little bit about home inspections? It seems like more and more people are giving up home inspections to make their offer more attractive. What do you think of that?
I don't advocate that, personally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm working with a buyer and the buyer feels very comfortable with that because they are experienced, so, I've worked with people where the dad's a plumber, the sister's an electrician, and, the brother's got a job in some kind of heating company or something like that where, well, they might have a much better handle on how to be a homeowner, and they've been through this for a long time. So in that situation, if they don't want it, I can help them with that. But if you're a first-time buyer and you've never owned a home, I recommend a home inspection because it's really helpful to learn how the home works and what there is. And sometimes they do find problems that even the seller themselves didn't know existed. And so you might end up opening up a can of worms. That's why I think some people are like, hey, I don't want to do it. But this can be helpful for a first-time buyer. And I try to work with people who are really looking to buy a home and live there for a while. And they're trying to start their family. I've helped people who they're either going to have a kid or they just had a kid and they want a big backyard. And they're very eager and anxious to get into a home.
Right.
And the last thing that they want is to get into a home and find out that it had termites and that they need to spend a couple $1,000s that they don't have because they were buying this home on an FHA loan with 3% down, and they don't really have a whole lot of extra money to jack up the house and replace the sills.
Right. All very, very good points. We're running out of time. I really want to thank you for joining us on the show today, Rob. And Steve, you as well. We're going to take a quick break for some commercials. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.